Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the YouTube channel. I'm actually talking to one of my childhood friends right now. This is Chris Hinson, and he's a friend of mine from California. And if you followed my YouTube channel and you've listened to all the crazy stories about how I was isolated from my friends and my family and completely on my own, this is one of my friends, one of the only two friends basically that have stuck with me the entire time. We've stayed in contact, and we're pretty much on the same page about researching and investigating reality, not the mainstream narrative that's forced on us. And every time Chris and I talk, we talk for probably a couple hours. Wouldn't you say we were on the phone for a couple hours every time we talk?
Yeah, I would.
Easily. And every time we talk, I'm thinking, Chris knows what the hell he's talking about, and he's just as smart as as informed as a lot of the people that I watch talk shows, like the people that are out there with you big YouTube channels, and you're good at connecting dots and just thinking rationally and thinking. I would say non-linearly. A lot of people think linearly, like in a line where they just believe black or white. It's this way or the other, and you're really good at thinking outside of the box. And when we were on the phone last night, and while thought was going through my head again, I was like, why don't we just do an interview? Why don't I just put you on the internet here and make you internet famous? Maybe you'll start your own YouTube channel and start talking about this stuff. I mean, because they talk about the silent majority, and I think you've been kind of one of those people. You're on Facebook, you're on social media, and you're trying to talk to your friends and your family, and you're trying to, I don't know if you want to call it red pill them or just get them to listen to some information, that they need to know to help them. And I figured, hey, let's bring Chris on and have him talk to the world instead of just friends and family and the Facebook that you're most likely shadow banned on. I'm
Yeah,
sure. I mean, does it feel that way?
yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned. If I wasn't before yesterday, definitely am now.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for wanting to have me on your channel, and I I've been doing research for a long time, and I mean we're going all the way back to our Bell days. He had some pretty far out stuff that, maybe even I kind of get a little chuckle out of with some of his guests, but, definitely outside of the box thinkers and individuals that, want to push the envelope on, the mainstream narrative that, wants to have the sheeple go to work every day, get their Starbucks coffee, go to Target, buy some crap that they don't need, and go home to three kids that they probably don't know what's going on in their lives. Their husbands or wives that are involved in their own lives going two different directions, and nobody knows what to do about it because nobody's talking. And I think that one of the biggest problems that I see right now is, when, you say when we were growing up, we were friends, we had our little group, and, there were several, microcosm groups that came out of that group and, moved this direction, that direction. But there's one thing that has changed in this country, and that is you could have a difference of opinion and still have a conversation and be friends.
Yep.
Um, right now, if you don't agree with somebody, then they don't want to hear what you have to say,
Yep.
and they kick you out of their Facebook. They unfriend you. They stop talking to you. They criticize you. They belittle you. They make assumptions about conspiracy this and conspiracy that, and it really doesn't do well for the dialogue of what's really going on.
Yeah, exactly. I agree 100%. And everybody watching this has probably had something like that happen in their life where they just, they noticed something was going on. They go, you know what? I don't think that we're getting the truth here. Maybe we should talk about that. And then all of a sudden, they're ostracized by their family, their friends. They won't talk to them anymore. People are divided. And then, the more that we're divided, the easier we are to conquer, which is where divide and conquer comes from. So,
Right, and Facebook is a perfect example of that. They condemn one protest, but yet condone another.
oh, yeah.
It's the same right, it's the same process, maybe a different subject, but who's to say what subject is more important than the other? I mean, I don't think I get to say that. I don't think you get to say that. It's worthy for somebody to spend their time to travel potentially to somewhere to voice their opinion, like or dislike, with their presence.
Yeah.
And that's important to them.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know what it is, Mike.
It's social engineering. It's the people have been indoctrinated. They've been trained to think a certain way, and they have cognitive dissonance. Once you tell them an uncomfortable truth as opposed to a comfortable lie, it makes them uncomfortable. I just had somebody earlier. I was telling somebody something earlier, and they said, "Oh, I don't like uncomfortable conversations." I go, "Well, who are you talking to?" That's what I do. I do that on, I do that on the internet. I do that in person. I tell you the truth, whether it's going to be comfortable or not, because it's reality and it's going to help you in the long run. And I'm not doing it to have control over you or manipulate you or just be right. I'm doing it because I care about you, and
right.
So, hey,
and it's interesting that you bring that up because as of this week, I read an article that was saying that children put somebody agreeing with what they've said like into love or approval or recognition. And if you get this child that has never been confronted with an oppositional view in their life because they have parents that want to be friends or want to coddle, and I say that word and it might not be the right word, but this is just the way I talk. You're not preparing your children for reality. And so I have a family member that her and I had a little back and forth this week, and my mother had stated that, well, she really doesn't like conflict. And I find it ironic that a person that would not like conflict would be the one trying to social media silence me with who I talk to, because in my mind, I'm thinking that, well, that's the first shot fired.
Yeah, it's not that they don't like, they don't like conflict. They don't like somebody having a different opinion than them or telling them they're wrong or trying to
embrace it.
Absolutely. That's why you and I are still friends, man, because we think a lot alike. So I wanted to, we kind of passed up your introduction. I mean, we're just talking here, but I wanted to tell people a little bit more about Chris. Said that we've been friends for, when did we meet? In like 7th grade? Clark?
No, it was before that. Yeah, actually, I think it was in middle school because you came a little bit late. I know that
in elementary school.
Well, yeah. I mean, I went to Mickey Cox, and did you go? You went to Mickey Cox too, right?
Yeah. So there was before. So we were. That's how old we are, people. We can't even remember how young we were when we met. But yeah, so Chris and I went to the same elementary school in Clovis, California. Mickey Cox Elementary.
Go Cowboys.
Yeah. Jeez, man, that was a long time ago, huh?
Yeah.
I still had a lot of hair then. Anyway, yeah. So Chris and we're in our mid 40s, and we've been friends since sixth grade, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So Chris and I are both from California, obviously, with what I was just talking about, and Chris has lived there the entire time. I moved away about 8 years ago, and before that, I was in the military and I'd moved around. So I lived in like Texas, Oklahoma, Maryland, Tennessee, and now I'm in Arizona. And Chris is you've been in California the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So you've watched.
kind of struggled there at a high school for a little bit, and
Yeah.
kind of didn't really have my way for a while, and then ended up getting a good job, and worked in the heavy truck transportation train industry. It's logistics, transportation, and
The largest,
mainly
the
work with.
largest trucking operation in California, right?
Yeah. I worked for a lot of biggest in California. So I mainly worked on maintenance side of the large equipment. Started out as somebody who deals with face-to-face customer, doing estimates, whatnot, and worked my way all the way to middle management, doing administrative management, and then kind of took a step back from middle management to take a supervisory role, where I managed 28 employees, which taught me a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you got to see how a big operation works, and you learned about compartmentalization and different, different aspects of business and how things work. And
The main thing that I took away from managing people was that, um, if you and I had an issue, I might be able to be very direct with you because, you're a confident, strong-minded individual. But if I had an employee that was, not very confident, didn't have a strong personality trait, maybe a B or a C personality, you cannot. It's not going to go well to be very direct. You have to be very subtle, and you have to do different things. And that was something that I didn't quite see as such an important role going in. But after experiencing some of the downsides of getting it wrong, which, I mean, you're not going to know because nobody's going to tell you. You got to figure this stuff out on your own.
yep.
And I had people that didn't like me, and I had people that loved me. But that's life. And you quickly learn that sometimes it's not going to be pretty, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It just got to get done.
Well, if you're doing your job and you're making decisions um, based on what needs to be done, as opposed to based on how people are going to feel about your decisions, then that's just going to happen. I mean, if you're doing the right thing, some people aren't going to like it. It may make them
Yeah.
a little bit uncomfortable. So, but
Well, I have a very unique. I had a very unique opportunity that most people don't get in management, and that's to work in a fully unionized environment. Whereas you're dealing with employees that have alternative representation, and that's adding another layer to it, because not only do you have to have a relationship with your boss, you have to have a relationship with your employees, but you also have to have a relationship with their management, and that has to be good too. There's some compromises behind closed doors with their management that you have to make and say, hey, I'm okay with this, but I'm not okay with that. and they might come back with me and say, well, you know what, Chris, we're not gonna budge there, but we'll do this, and they'll make a compromise somewhere else. So, you learn how to negotiate in situations like that, and sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't.
Yep. And you were there for 17 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then stuff was changing in the world, in California in particular, and at your place of business, and you got an offer and moved on to another trucking place. We don't have to go
Yeah.
into with
Yeah.
that.
So I saw my opportunities at the current place of employment kind of close. I had met my plateau. I didn't see the next position available for the next 10 years. And, I'm, you know, early 40s at this point. And, if I wait any longer, I'm stuck. I can't make a move. I can't. I got to play the rest of the game out with that team. And so I had an offer. It was a good offer. I took the shot, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
And it was for not one of, the largest trucking company on the West Coast. We had over 1,800 tractors and about 2,400 trailer, 4,800 trailer units for a total maintenance asset package of almost 6,000 pieces of equipment. I personally was in charge of about 250 tractors and about 1,000 trailers. And I did it with a crew of 2 in the beginning because everyone had left, and I basically rebuilt that organization throughout several months of me being there. But um, it just seems like, a lot of companies right now at that time, about a year ago, year and a half ago, we're going through a lot of changes,
Yep.
making a lot of changes. You know, there was a trend in business to have all your business group come together and be one big kumbaya, and everyone talk to each other, and we're going to share this technology with this group and that group, and it's going to be across the board, and they were consolidating things, and then that kind of went away about 6 or 7 years ago, and everyone split back up into their groups, their subsidiaries, went back to their original names, and nobody talked to each other, and um, I don't know why that change happened, but about a year and a half ago, the trend kind of came back to let's all come back together. Let's all come back under the same roof. And, so a lot of things had to change. And part of that was after 2008, the big crash, the employer's position, and I know this firsthand because I was in the meetings, was more with less. So if we had 3 employees doing set amount of work, one employee was going to do all that work. We didn't need the other 2. So a lot of stress got put on employees because there was no time for, you had a lot of stuff to do every day. And one of the things that I got pancaked onto my responsibilities there was being the shop manager and the shop foreman. And that had never been a role of mine before because I was always the foreman, and I had gotten the position for service manager, and the service manager typically has a foreman to work the floor for him. And so, I mean, I was running my butt. I was like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and still couldn't get it all done. And then this was all for, I don't know, close to six figures, we'll call it.
Yeah.
But I was miserable.
Yeah.
I was not eating right. I wasn't sleeping right. I was stressed out. My blood pressure was like through the roof. And I was
I don't want to cut you off, but okay. So I want to get into more of what we were talking about last night.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is that's what middle management is in America.
Oh, okay.
That's the environment that's the environment that people are dealing with today. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where their mindset is. And they come home and they're done.
Yeah.
They don't have time to do research.
Which is why you're not there anymore. Which is why
I left.
You do your own thing. You took what you had and you do your own thing. And now you've always done this since I've known you. You've worked on cars and refurbished. I'm probably using the wrong word, but restored cars, and you've got your own shop on your own property now, and that's what you're doing full time, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm proud of you for doing that. A lot of people don't have the balls to just say, okay, I'm done with all of you. I'm going to do my own thing. And
I'm done with middle management.
What's that?
I'm done with middle management.
Yep. Yeah. And I think a lot of people got to that point too. They're probably listening to you going right now going, God, I want to do that so bad.
You know? Well, it took me 20 years to get there, you know, and I just think that, and the reason why I kind of went down that path is because it opens up maybe where a lot of people are out there as to why they're not going to spend time asking the hard questions that we do. They don't have time. They're exhausted.
By design.
Yes.
There's not enough hours in the day. Pay isn't good enough. Taking care of kids, trying to spend time researching. You can't figure out what's going on in the world by just clicking on the news. Obviously, we know that they lie to us nonstop just to get us to believe this false narrative. And so there's just not enough hours in the day. People working 2-3 jobs, and they're trying to figure out what's going on in the world, what they can do that's best for them and their family, and how to be safe and secure. And it's just almost impossible. So the people that don't understand what's going on, I don't really blame all of them personally, because it's like they've been put into the same trap that we have. And a lot of them are, like we said, indoctrinated and just don't have the time or the capacity to completely under it. But they need to we're at the point now where they need to start taking that extra couple hours, not go to the whatever event they're going to, or watch the whatever show it is on TV.
Well, I think what it is they're living by a model that doesn't exist anymore. So when we went off of the gold standard in the 70s and went to a fiat currency, at that point in time, it was from the 50s to the 70s. And I'm by no means against any type of movement of person, color of skin, what you recognize yourself as. I'm fine with everything. But when the single worker family, which was mainly the man, would go to work, and the woman would stay home, take care of the kids, the quote unquote nuclear family, we'll call it. When we went off of the gold standard, that changed, and you had to have a 2-income family at that point, and the mom went to work. And that was because of inflation. Because of the debt currency and where it was in its path. And you wanted me to talk about some of this, and
say, here we go, folks. This is what Chris knows about. This is what he's good with.
Yeah. So right now, we've had this reset, this financial crisis about 5 times throughout our history. A lot of people don't know this, but after the Civil War, this country was broke. It had no money. It had debtors. Other countries contributed to our war effort, and we had to pay them back. And we couldn't because we had no money. So we had to take on financial risks, even at the beginning 200 years ago. It's the financials are financials. Numbers don't change. They don't lie. So, our founding fathers had to decide, what type of risk they were going to expose the country to. And they made pretty good decisions all the way up to about 1913, 1911. And that's when the Federal Reserve Act was passed.
Yep.
That is when we had the Rothschilds and the robber barons, the Chases, and all the names.
Island, wasn't that where they did that?
What was that?
What was it? What was the island? Mackinac Island?
Yeah, at midnight, in the middle of the night, kind of like what they just did here recently. But get there, and they passed the Treasury Act, and that basically put us on a path where our financial depended on foreign powers and companies. And so these people make money by creating bubbles. So, you go from 1913 to 1930, okay? That was their first run of their bubble.
Yeah.
And it broke, and it was the recession.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went from 1930 to about wait a minute. I was going to say 1950, but that's not necessarily true because we had a war. See, they love wars. They love it.
Endless wars.
That generates tons of money for them because why? Countries have to take on more debt. Countries, okay? Governments take on more debt, and they love it. That holds their bubble up so good.
Mm-hmm.
So 1950s, great. We're coming out of World War II. They made so much money out of World War II, consolidated everything, took over Europe, loaned Europe a ton of money. Oh man, they were doing great. So they extended that bubble from the 30s all the way to the 70s. It lasted, right? So then, we had hyperinflation. We had, very high interest rates. And, that went on even to the 80s, really. But when you have high interest rates, that's the sign of a somewhat stable financial system, because that means that people will take the risk even at a high rate. Well, if you look at our interest rates right now, since 2008, when our country took on more debt than probably half the world's countries, I think it was like, $13 trillion or something, the bailout in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
That's when our country had some major issues when it comes to what our trustees, which is our government, which is congressmen, women, the president of the corporation, United States Incorporated, they don't really know how to manage that much debt. And they chose to protect their financial interests, which most people would, which is the big business, big banks, and the American people got shit on. Excuse my language.
All right,
Shit.
yeah,
Okay.
that's fine here, buddy.
Yep. And so we've been at pretty close to 0% or negative percent rate on bonds since 2008. So, you have a guy works for the phone company, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, hey, I got out of high school. Maybe I went to junior college. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have some kids. I'm going to save some money. I'm going to get a pension. Everything is good, right? What is the incentive for me to save money when my return is less than 1%? There is no incentive for me to save money at less than 1%. So you go, okay, well, maybe you don't save money, Chris. Well, nobody saves money because you'd be dumb to save money. There's no point in it. I mean, and you're losing if you keep cash in your safe because it's inflation. You're paying to save money, and
It gets worse and worse.
it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
Well, that's just for me and you. Well, they don't care about us. Well, how does this affect them? Okay, well, you're a county and you want to sell some bonds to make a new road or bridge or dam or something. You want to sell bonds to your residents, and you're gonna put that into an investment, and you're gonna make some money, and you're gonna be able to afford to build this bridge or dam or whatever the project is. That don't work. It doesn't work anymore because you're not making money on bonds. Nothing. Right? Then you go, oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that guy that worked for the phone company, right? Okay. Well, he's got a retirement because he's worked there for 40 years because he's loyal, because that's what they knew. That's what they know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that retirement fund is about $9 million underwater in their investments because their bonds aren't producing as projected. So, a lot of people out there are at jeopardy of losing their retirement money. My dad's one of them. He worked for state of California for 42 years. Not going to mention the fund, but no need to. The point's been made. If that fund fails, then he's 79 years old. He gets zero income because he didn't pay into Social Security because he worked for the state. And when you work for a state or county, you have the option to pay in or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he will get this right here, zero. So, and there's nothing he can do about it. Nothing. And I know that happened to some GM retirees when they restructured in the bankruptcy, and it can happen again. And there's nothing the unions ain't that they don't have anything to do with it. So
you're talking above my head when we talk about finances, because that's not my wheelhouse. It's just a lot of it goes over my head, which is weird. I owned an insurance agency for 5 years. I should know a little bit more about finances, but I learned about insurance and the leverage of money and how that works and stuff. But what you're talking about, every time I talk to you, I learn something new about finances and the way that I can't even, I get stuck even thinking about it. But you're really good with processing all of that information, and that's part of the reason.
And you might be asking yourself, or maybe if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast, you're one of Mike's followers, say, well, where the heck is this guy going? Um, I know that you guys are fellow researchers. Some of you guys are targeted individuals, and um, you're probably more aware of what's going on than most. So, I'm trying to kind of segue into, what environment we're in right now.
Yep.
And so the 2008 was the last tool in the toolbox for them, was to just throw money at the too big to fail businesses and print as much money as those wheels could turn and keep interest rates at zero, because if they go up to 0.5%, it all comes down. And we've been there for 4, 8, 12 years, and it hasn't moved. And that is why our economy during the Obama administration was like a snail. It just got its butt kicked, and it was getting out of the ditch. And when Trump came in, he took a lot of regulations that was slowing the progress of the market away, and mainly in the oil industry, the drilling, offshore, the Canada pipeline, the Dakota pipeline, made us very profitable. Yep. And but he really was trying to work with the Federal Reserve to work on what they were doing, and what they're doing. It's called quantitative easing. And if people don't know what quantitative easing is that is where they buy back shares of companies. The Federal Reserve buys back shares to AT&T, GE Capital, Bank of America, you name it.
What about Walmart and Best
Walmart, Buy? Target, all of them. So you have the Federal Reserve, the central bank, buying back shares to companies to hold these companies up in the market, because they're not worth half of what they're supposed to be worth. Meanwhile, the companies are taking every single asset that they have, including counting pens and pencils and staplers, and putting dollar values as for assets, so they can just float. And in the meantime, the CEOs and major players of these companies are continually getting rich, because they're selling these shares as they're being bought back, which holds up their value. So
would that have something to do? Would that have something to do with why all these giant corporations, big box stores, don't seem to have the same limitations that small business do right now?
Well, you have to go back to their own interests. If you had stock in Target, you would probably want Target to stay open, right?
Hey, you know who owns a big portion of Target?
California.
George Soros.
Oh yeah.
Big old chunk of it.
Well, the states, the United States corporation, and the states own all of the strip mall. I mean, you go to Texas and you got the same strip mall there. You go to down south in California, it's the same strip mall, same store, same everything. It's like you blink your eye, you're in another town, you got another street sign color, but it's the same companies.
Same thing. Yep.
It's like it's crazy. It's corporate America. And yeah. All you have to do is look at the financial reports for every state. They have to produce them every year. So does the United States Incorporated. Um, they have to produce it as well. It's on their books. The Targets, the Walmarts, and all that stuff. And you say, huh, that's funny. Those are all the companies that are allowed to stay open right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So they don't want you to own nothing. They don't want you to have a small business. They don't want you to have a home. They want you to rent. They want you to shut up. And they want you to take your shitty job that's stressing you out. Don't talk to your family. Don't talk to your friends because you don't have time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Klaus Schwab said they will own nothing and they'll be happy.
Yeah, well, you look at the millennials, and I'm not going to pick on them. I'm not going to talk bad about them because they had no choice in the position that this country put them in. But they make 20% less than we did at their same age. And I'm talking about Generation X.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any possessions. They don't own homes. They don't have cars. And they're more educated with more information than any other generation has ever had. So they're poorer, no assets, blissfully happy with technology. I mean, is that
by design again?
And what are they going to do when they get older? They have no retirement. They have nothing. But maybe this will give some of you the part of the reason why you cannot reason with that generation with their perspectives either. They expect the cops to come and save them. They expect to be safe. They expect to be taken care of. They expect you to agree with them. They expect a lot. But their expectations are for the wrong things. But there again, that's getting into schools and social construction, and I'm not
social engineering and
that's another podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole nother talk show, as I always say. But
Yeah.
you're right, though. I mean, but this has taken decades to do, to indoctrinate people. And it's not that we don't like that generation. We want the best for them. We want the best for our kids, for our grandkids, for these younger folks that, we want to see them own property. We want to see them have a savings. We want to see them take ownership in something and be proud of that, what they worked for. And that's, I think, why we're here talking about this stuff right now, because we do care about our younger people and want to see them have some positive things in their life and not be completely controlled and just following what they're told and regurgitating that, to think on their own and to take some ownership in their lives.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the hashtag, leave whatever, I don't know exactly the name of it, where you have some left wing Democrats that leave the party because they've been red pilled or whatever saying it is.
Oh, leave the plantation?
Huh?
It was hashtag leave the plantation. No, that was a Brexit thing.
Yeah, something like that. But I think that it's when they realize that the expectations or quote unquote dream that they had been fed, led them to a dead end road. A lot of these people were go to school, get good grades, go to college. Well, they all did.
Yeah.
All of them, mostly. I mean, they had, some of the graduating numbers for that period are way a lot higher than at other times in this country. And what happened was you had a very small market for a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And they realized that piece of paper didn't mean shit.
Yeah.
To my 15 years of experience doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
Well,
think of what what a lot of what their curriculum was, when it's been proven that China has pumped millions and millions and millions of dollars into universities all across the United States, Harvard, Georgetown, uh, even West Virginia, University of West Virginia. There was a big list of colleges that received millions and millions of dollars from China, and then are basically mandated by the people that gave them all their money to teach the curriculum that they wanted them to learn. And do you think that China is going to have are the universities that they just paid millions of dollars to teach those students things that are going to make our country better? I don't think so, and it's proven to be a detriment to our country.
Well, I think that goes back to, assessing the risk for your country, like our forefathers did when they started this country. You know, it's you should always be careful on who you borrow money from. I mean, I'm not going to borrow money from the bookie down the street, because if I don't pay him back, he's going to break my freaking leg. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd much rather go to a bank and take out a loan, because what's the worst they can do? Is harass me over the phone? Yeah, I can
Mhm.
deal with that. Whatever. Go away. I got caller ID. But you look at, the three main debtors to the United States, and, by far the biggest one debtor that we have is China, and they've bought more U.S. bonds than any other country in the world. So, when you have exposed the country to that much risk, how can you tell them no? Because they could just call their bonds. You know what? We want half of our bonds paid by next week. They can call for their bonds to get paid out. So it's a fine line, and I get why the politicians haven't been so hard on China, but there's another aspect to that too.
Yeah, half of them are under control by China. They're owned by them.
Well, in the 70s, going back to the 70s, when we went off the gold standard, we had manufacturing in this country, which equates to jobs, which equates to family and security and income and consumption and yada, yada, yada. So there's only one problem with that.
And then manufacturing during the 70s, I talk about all the time. During the Nixon administration, got shit. We used to make stuff here.
Yeah, but a bike right now, if it was made in the United States, would be $1,500. A bicycle, right?
Yeah.
Two wheels, frame. It'd be
Mhm.
$1,500 because of all of the regulations and the labor costs, the insurance mandates, the potential unions involved,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, it's $1,500. Now, there's a company out there. The main company starts with a K. They make bikes. They make bikes in China, and you can buy that bike for $150. So that's 10 times less than what it would cost if it was made in the United States. And so that's where you have the people going to sleep, because you said it the other day when we were talking, and that was, if it doesn't affect me, then I don't have to worry about it. If I buy that same bike for $150 that I could when it used to be made here in the United States, and I can still buy it for $150 when it's made in China, what do I care? Yeah, it's the same, but it's not. And that was designed.
Oh yeah.
The central bank had to move all of the manufacturing to China, because if they didn't, you would know that their system was failing. It's failing.
Now there's something going on with the central banks. Like, it seems like they're being broken apart. I don't know if you've noticed this, but many of the riots, looting, the rioting, the burning, all of that, they seem to be right around the location of a central bank and or a federal court.
Federal court.
Yeah.
Well, what I know is that you have China, the dragons, and you have the central bank that's loaned them a ton of money. And part of China's problem is that the central bank has called them in. They said, we're going to loan all this money to you and you're never going to have to pay it back. Well, guess what? They're asking to be paid back. And the red dragons in China are very upset. And they put out some requests of certain people that are very influential in the central bank. So whereas these people might not be around anymore. So that really kind of got things livened up about 2 years ago. Okay. And since then they've worked out a deal. But this system that we're in it's like on life support. It's got one lung collapse, the other one's at 20%, and we're taking on water. And it's the reset. It's not going to be just the United States this time. Because to this point, I've just talked about the United States resets, bankruptcy proceedings, reorganization. I'm talking about a world financial reset. So whereas we go to one world currency, potential one world government, it is on our doorstep. And I'm not going to be shy about it, but I don't mean to be an alarmist either. I'm just a realist.
That's what a lot of people are talking about. And I keep hearing about something called Nasara and Jasara also. And it seems to be a different kind of reset. And it seems like the white hats, like the good guys, are trying to go for the Nasara, Jasara, and then the New World Order, globalist type folks are going for the, quote, Great Reset. And again, I don't know enough about it to really even speak on it. I just know what I've been hearing, and I've been hearing that there are two different things.
Well, one wants to go with a digital currency that has no backing. And that is going to be based on one side is we're going to shove this down your throat and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you don't like it, we'll ruin your life. The other side is actually creating something that goes back to what's worked for centuries, and that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
The gold standard is, gold is so undervalued right now. It should be somewhere around $10,000 an ounce. But, I think, I haven't checked it in a while, but it's about a fourth of where it should be. And, for a long time, people have been talking about real estate being pretty safe, but you want to buy commercial real estate right now? There's going to be such a flood on commercial real estate. It's not even going to be funny. There's so much of it out there. You can't even give this shit away.
Oh, and by the way, everybody, we're not financial advisors, doctors, lawyers, anything like that. These are just our opinions. So I have to say that ahead of time. If we're talking about finances or anything like that, we're not giving you legal advice. We're just two guys having a conversation about, like our opinions. So
yes, that is correct. And I appreciate you for saying that, Mike, because, I'm just, I'm the guy next door. And, I'm just the guy who's been digging in books and scrolling through the internet and looking up stuff that normal people don't do.
And we're doing so like, say we live next door to each other and we get home from work and we're just sitting there in our lawn chairs having a beer talking about the world. That's exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
where we have the capacity to do this online and just have a chat about this. And that's I keep trying to tell people that's what these masks are about. That's what this 6 foot distancing is about. They don't want Chris and I sitting here talking, having a conversation about what's really going on, so we can brainstorm and talk about this stuff and maybe share that information with other people. Yeah, because that's how information travels. But when you get a mask on and you're at the store and you feel like you're in a hockey arena trying to talk to the person at the grocery store because you got this big plexiglass thing between you, and they've got a mask on and you've got a mask on, and they sound like Kenny from South Park, and the hockey arena thing, and you're just like, this is ridiculous. This is we can't even have a normal conversation, and then information stops flowing.
Well, you'd be surprised on how much comprehension actually comes from watching people's lips move. A lot of people don't hear that well, and so your brain actually compensates it by learning how to read lips. And so if you don't have that aspect, in a lot of things too, it has to do with facial expressions. Your mind, it subconsciously takes those reactions, minute as they may be, and translates them into meaning. And so if you got your whole face covered, you might say something to me and I might go, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to maybe having it without the rest of the information coming in.
Yeah.
So it makes communicating harder because of that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say a lot of words, the same word, a different way, and it have a different meaning.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the F word, for example. I mean, we could say that 15 bazillion different ways, and it can be a bad thing, it could be a good thing, you could be in trouble, you could be the hero. I mean, it's
one of my favorite videos. Have you ever seen that video where they're explaining the use of the F word?
Oh yeah. Right. They have something on one of the main streaming channels, that the art of cussing, using words, and I watched a little bit of it here recently, but yeah, that also has to do with control too. I say you do this, and if you don't do this, there's really no penalty for it, but people are still doing it because I'm gonna shame you. It's actually like group thought, collective thought, hive mind. Like, oh, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for everyone else. How could you not care about the people that you come into contact? You could be sick and you don't even know it, and you get everyone else sick. How would you feel about that?
Yeah.
Well, I probably would feel pretty bad about it, just like if I had the common cold and I went out and did the same thing, which we've been doing for years. Hence the reason this is how it spreads.
Yeah.
But all of
the common flu went down by 95% in 2020, and we have like 2 million less deaths than.
I think Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize for doing away with the common cold. I said it.
He got nominated for 4 of them.
Yeah.
You know that, but they didn't put that on the news at all.
The guy does like 8 peace deals in the Middle East, but they want to try to impeach him for inciting insurrection by telling people, and I will quote, walk down to the Capitol and exercise your constitutional rights so you can be heard. Is exactly what he told them to do.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds like a pretty reasonable thing for a person to do when you're protesting. It's exactly that.
Yep.
Now, we're a country of laws and personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That means that what you do and what I do is on you or me.
Yep.
That's it. It's not Trump's fault. I just
not at all. But transference and projection is how the deep state operates. The whatever you want to call them, It's how they operate. They commit crimes and they act in a certain way, and then they transfer that to whoever they're taking advantage of, trying to take advantage of. They blame.
They're masters at it, and I am absolutely amazed on how effective it is when you have the power of media in their corner. How the media can say something and it's like it's just accepted and value.
Yep.
And they did a poll recently, and it said like something like 20% of Republicans think that the mainstream media is telling the truth, but the flip side is 77% of people in the Democratic Party says that the mainstream media is honest and non-biased.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest separation that it has ever been, and they've been taking the polls since like 1962.
Yeah. Well, and that's because some of them are still indoctrinated and brainwashed, and some of them are complicit in a lot of things, and they just want people to go along with that narrative, so they won't realize what these people have been complicit with for so long. And there's more of them complicit than people realize.
We need to get that pin that they had in Men in Black, and we see that.
I hate to tell you this, but I think they already have that. Yeah. There's a Navy SEAL that came out recently and did a TikTok video. Well, people think he's a Navy SEAL. One of the Navy SEALs that was supposedly killed, and he talked about how his memory had been erased. But that's again, that's a whole nother talk show. But that technology is.
This is the first time that we've really kind of come together, and you've been doing research for years, and I've been doing research for years, and I mean, there's like so many fractional, roads that can come out of just this one conversation. It's not even funny.
We could sit here for a month straight and talk about stuff and go down different roads, different caveats to different things.
I have something that seems to be something that may or may not be. Well, I don't know. I have a pretty good feeling about it. I don't know if you had a chance to look at some of the stuff that I sent you last night, but or this morning, I guess.
I watched the second video that you sent me, but I didn't make it through the first one because we were about to start doing this.
So we've talked a lot in this I call it podcast or whatever about what led us to the reset, and we really need to talk about why would they want Trump not elected again? Well, it could be because they don't like him. It could be because he's working for the people, and it could be a lot of different reasons. But I'm going to take you back to when he got elected. Okay, so when he got elected, there was the same plan in some degree as there was in 2020 and 2016 for Hillary. But the white hats in the army came in and basically shut that operation down that an alphabet department had going on, name unnamed, fill in the blank. Yeah. Did you mute yourself? Oh, I can't hear you.
That's weird. All of a sudden, my mic got muted.
Isn't that something?
That's impeccable timing.
It sure is.
Anyway, so we're not distracted from what we were talking about, but yeah, I just if my mic was muted. I said the FBI, and it's compartmentalized, so I don't believe it's all of them, but a lot of the good people got pushed out. And I just did an interview with a former FBI agent, John D'Souza, 25-year special agent with the FBI, and he said the exact same thing. And I watched it happen in the military too. A lot of people got pushed out. So there are white hats in all aspects of military. I think, and even in intel. I'm not sure how many of them made it through, but yeah, it's a lot of control through the FBI, the CIA.
Yep. And so
good.
So they got him elected because they were going to throw as many votes artificially at Hillary as they did potentially for Joe Biden. Okay.
Yep.
So he got elected like he should. That was, we had an honest election, in 2016. And that's why she was so upset. And that is why the Democrats were so upset, because for a long time in this country, we haven't had a real election.
Nope.
And I hate to break that to people, but your politicians have been bought and paid for.
The people watching this channel already, they're all okay. They're just sitting there nodding their head right now.
So what you have now is you had President Trump that took the inauguration of the presidency and said this. This is not a transfer of administrations. This is a transfer to you, the people.
Yeah, we the people.
He told everyone in Washington that he basically kicked him in the mouth on day one. Okay, and said, I'm working for them. Their vote counted. That's what put me here, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, So I'm going to do 4 years of fast forward, because I'm pretty sure we all know it's been a pretty rocky ride.
Yeah, following through with what he promised us, and now that's
a lot of things that he promised. That's right. Which kudos to him. I'm not so much a fan of the man. I'm more a fan of the movement, and the movement is about putting our country back on a path, so whereas my children and your children can have the same dream, and that dream is the pursuit of happiness with representation without taxation. And that is about as simple as it can get. And I'd like to have my ability to be my own king, which is what this country is all about. You are your own personal king and your queen. You are your own master. And it has been the only place on this earth that is that.
And it is still, for some people, they have the capacity to take that all away from you, which has been proven in my life. And that's why I've fought so hard to try to speak out about this, because there are people that still have, let's see, how can I say this without going into this for half an hour? But basically, if they target you as, we'll just say this: over the last almost 4 years, I've been documenting what they can do to a person, and I want to see that end to where they can take away your capacity to earn a living, to make your own decisions, to speak freely, and that's what we're looking at right now. If things don't get better, and we're at the precipice right now where it's either going away for everyone, or we're going to regain our freedom again and be able to.
You have the right to peacefully reside in your own residence in complete privacy. And when you have governors threatening to cut off your water because who you have in your home, threatening to break down your door with these stay-at-home orders because you have people over for the holidays, that is against the Constitution. When you have ramifications for your speech, that's against the Constitution. when you have people that are openly asking employers to fire people because they went to the United States Capitol protest, people are going to lose their jobs because they went to a protest, not because they broke in, because they went to the protest.
Yeah.
Now,
so now what you're talking about is what everybody's seeing recently. They've already done this with these targeting programs I've talked about over and over and over through Department of Homeland Security and the FISA court, Foreign International Surveillance Court.
yeah,
If they put you through that, it removes all of your constitutional rights. They will come into your home. They surveil you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which we're pretty much all surveilled on some level. But
you're in the beta program.
I was part of the beta test that they're rolling out everyone. What I've experienced in my life personally for the last, I don't even know when it started, because there's an overt part of the targeting program, and then a covert part of the targeting program, then an overt part. The overt part started in about April of 2017 for me, where they made it obvious that they were doing this to me. Yeah. But it's literally, when you hear somebody call themselves a targeted individual, that person was part of the beta test. They were perfecting all of their standard operating procedures and their psychological tactics and all of their intrusions into your life to see what effects it would have on the person. I got to experience that personally for years. And now this last year, I'm seeing those exact same tactics rolled out on a mass level to everyone.
Yeah.
The isolation, the being ostracized in public, being shamed in public. I've seen this movie already. And I'm trying to tell people, look at what's happening to you right now. I've already been through this over and over. We've been trying to tell you guys, we were the beta test. They tested on us to see how it's going to affect the rest of you. And the gaslighting, mass gaslighting. I call it mass lighting.
And what you say, and what I've heard you say on your, because I follow your channel too, and it's the influencers, it's the people that do research, that watch TED videos, that research the minuscule details that no one else heard on the news, that you go dig into, or talking to retired alphabet agency individuals. That's not a normal thing that people do.
Yeah. Well, you know me for a long time, and you even said something about, you're telling me about a friend of yours that was a photographer, and you were like, man, he's really getting into it, and he's going to like way past what normal people, kind of like you do, Mike. And I was like, yeah, that's how I've always done things. I don't just do something half-ass. I take it all the way, no matter what I'm doing, if it's in business or if I'm learning something. And I've always been that way. But that's kind of a trait of what, there's literally military documents that describe people like me and like a lot of other people that have been targeted. We're empowered individuals, where we don't look for our guidance from someone all the time. We want to do the right thing. We want to do what's best for other people. But, if we think that if there's something that we want to do, we don't see a threshold where we need to stop. We take it as far as we want. And
did you happen to hear the QAnon shaman talk and talk about like the magnetic rings under the Capitol and the vibrations and this, that, and the other? It was basically, it's the man with the horns that had the body paint and had the fur coat on at
that guy's a former Marine. I'm still
that guy makes everyone in the movement look bad.
I think that was intentional. I really don't trust that guy right now, because a lot of a real Q researcher and follower, I don't think would do something like that.
I really got turned off by some of the things that he had to say, because he did not hit the mark at all.
Yeah, I don't think he's one of us. When I say one of us, I've followed QAnon since October of 2017.
But now here's what I am a little frustrated about, and that is if you follow QAnon, basically he's implying that everything's in place.
Well,
but
QAnon isn't he. It's actually what you just described earlier, and I don't even know if you realized that you talked about the white hats in the military asking Trump to go into the position that he's in, and that's basically who QAnon is. The white hats, military,
right. I get that, but what I'm saying is his dialogue is such that there's this master plan in place that's already figured out, and it's like 4D chess, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you and me and the follower potentially complacent because we don't see our part in that because not all of us play 4D chess. So when we're fed information that's conceptualized in a 4D setting, you go, oh well, okay, well that sounds like they got it all figured out. And then you go back to sitting on the couch eating your bonbons and watching Netflix.
Yeah, to me that's not really what they were doing. They do say trust the plan, but they also people will call it a psyop, and if it's a psyop, it's the first one that has psychologically operated to get people to use their critical thinking skills.
Yeah, and that's pretty damn tough.
It is, especially when people haven't been taught critical thinking skills in school for decades. They've been taught to process the information that's given to them and then repeat that. Take the test, get the grade, move on, and not use your non-linear thinking skills. But that's what it seems like to me. And I don't even like to say I'm a QAnon follower. I've just watched the information that they've put out, and I've linked it up to a bunch of personal experiences in my life and watched a bunch of the timestamps and what they've said transpire. And there's been some things that they said that didn't seem to pan out either. Like they say, trust this person or trust that person, and it turns out that we shouldn't have been trusting this certain person or not. But I don't know. I've got from that whole situation, reading the drops and everything, I've got more positive information that's been helpful in my own personal life than pretty much anything else other than my own personal experience. So, but
you, just like me, you're not satisfied with the information that they provide. You go verify.
Oh yeah.
You go do your research, and you tie the 4 points together that he made in the post to verify in your mind that it was valid. Mm-hmm. Well, if you take a non-critical thinking person that's given the information, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
They don't have the time nor the will nor the know-how training to do it. And so they could potentially be left with, this 4D chess scenario where, oh shit, okay, got it all taken care of.
5D, not to correct you, but they call it 5D.
well, 4D, I'm a little slow.
It's
4D, 5D, whatever.
Yeah.
But the point here is that there's so many sources to get information anymore. I find myself all the time asking myself, is this a rabbit hole? Is this information not true? Am I going to be the sucker that regurgitates this crap and it's like I'm part of the problem?
I'm being led down this avenue or this avenue to get me away from what reality is and to be gaslit. And that's why I keep saying we're gaslit on a mass level. I don't think QAnon is that. I don't believe that's their goal. Anything is possible in this world anymore. Where if I found out that something was not what it was said to be, then it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I don't believe that that's what that whole situation is about. So
Well,
what okay, all of that aside,
yeah.
right now, what's going on in our world, in our country right now, this pivotal time in our country? What is happening right now,
Yeah.
and what are we looking at in our near future here?
You're looking at the complete reconstruction of your whole world as you know it. You are on the precedent of complete change.
Sounds good to me.
Well, it's it's
I mean, I think it sounds good.
if you have 80 if you have half of the country on team Trump and you have half of the country on team hate Trump, because it's definitely not team Biden. Everybody knows that. The guy is like a cadaver. But it's team hate Trump because they're the sheeple that listen to mainstream news and all the lies about him and all this other stuff. And so what you need to understand is that they did not get their Hillary and they did not get their war. And the war was what was going to prop the system up. So whereas they could kick the reset down the road, they didn't get the war. They wanted the war with China and we were supposed to lose. Don't you see? It didn't happen because of Trump, because of what he's done. He's the only president that hasn't gone to war in decades.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
He didn't give them what they wanted. And so people have turned on him that may have at one point in time been the white hat because of the financial implications. Say, hey, if you don't help us, this is what's going to happen. Okay, we're going to turn into a third world Venezuela. And guess what? We're going to turn into a Venezuela not because we're communist, because it's called hyperinflation. Okay? And yeah, a loaf of bread is going to cost $100. Not because we're communists, but because of hyperinflation.
And so, that's really something we don't want. I don't know if you watched the interview I did with the guy from Venezuela that moved here to escape socialism, and he explained that he's already seen this.
Yeah.
Same thing happened in Venezuela, and
yeah, it's the same playbook. Okay, so this is going on a world scale, and the reset will not be successful without the United States. Period. We have to be in the reset. If we're not in the reset, they're screwed. And when I say they, I don't know who they are, but they're out there. Okay, I'm not going to waste time because I don't need to waste my time. I'm the bigger picture, not the small guy.
Yeah.
So when Trump says this is the most important decision of your life, he's telling you the truth. Okay. And so he is the only thing standing in the way from their candidate, their war, their reset. They're going to go with nationalized benefits. You're going to get government money paycheck. There's going to be no small businesses. It's going to be socialism. It's going to be government ran everything. It's going to be groupthink. If they don't like what you say, they're going to cut your money. You toe the line or you don't get your stipend. You don't get your bread. You don't get to eat.
Yeah.
You don't get to work. You don't get to do shit.
Yeah, there's a saying I heard somebody say a while back, and they said, accept the shekels, accept the shackles. You take their money and you.
What is the American dream? That's the difference. You're either going to fight for the American dream or you're going to let it die.
So what happens? What are we? I feel like
this is why people have so much passion when they go to the people's house. It's not Nancy Pelosi's house.
Exactly.
It's not Schumer's house.
Mm-hmm.
It's our house.
Exactly. And that's how they look at it. They look at it as they own all of that and they own all of us.
Well, when you become a United States citizen, you become an income provider to them, and they perceivably see us as assets or property, and
Yep.
that's why you have a social security number, because they're going to track your earnings, and they've borrowed money off of your earnings and my son's earnings and his son's earnings, or daughter for that matter,
Mhm.
for decades. $26 trillion currently, which is more money than this country has made since it was created.
I
Ain't
think
that?
I think that number might even be higher, but I'm not the financial expert.
It's worldwide. It's almost 500 trillion.
Well,
Yeah, and so
okay, wait, let me stop you there, or not stop you, but I want to say something. So that's possibly what. So Executive Order 13818, the executive order against human rights violations and government corruption, corporate corruption. That executive order gives, I don't want to say Trump, but gives the opportunity to seize the assets that have kept from the people that have been complicit in these human rights violations, in keeping people in debt slavery for so long. And some of the numbers that I'm hearing, like the Federal Reserve that have in these shell accounts, are astronomical. Like not even trillions, but quadrillions. I don't even know if I said it right.
yeah,
Quadrillions. And if that
in your
can be
in
seen,
your name, Michael.
yeah. So if they can follow through with that executive order, the 13818, I have a shirt that says 13818 is great. And because I really think that's the foundation to this whole thing. And if they can seize the assets, if they can pull through and do that and seize the assets from those people that have been stealing that money from all and making money off of interest from us for 150 years, and redistribute that back to the American people and let us function under constitutional laws, not these corporate maritime laws, then we get our freedom back. We've got some capital to start over again, and we can pursue the American dream again. We start over, and that's the reset that I want to see. Not, you know,
Yeah,
making
and
sense?
and you heard what happened to the people that tried to cash in on those accounts, right?
No, maybe I did.
Well, they got into some pretty big trouble because it does have a routing number and an account number,
Oh,
and
nothing here.
oh yeah, they put in some strict orders after that happened. It got transferred, all of it, into one
Hmm.
account. Handful of people have done that. Some constitutionalists that understand that we're dealing with a corporation, a piece of paper, not God protected living wetware. We're wetware, buddy. That's what we're considered, wetware.
Yeah,
Software, wetware, because we're
assets,
we're
goods
alive.
in the
Okay?
system. Yeah.
So where we're at is they can no longer afford to waste time. They've lost 4 years. These people that want to do the reset have lost 4 years, and their system is being propped up by quantitative easing,
Wait,
and they can't do it anymore.
hold on.
They have no more tools in the toolbox like I talked about.
Wait,
And
can you hear me? Your video froze.
yeah,
It froze. Go
yeah, I
back.
can.
Okay, go back a little bit. Rewind.
Okay,
No.
so they lost 4 years, and they've been quantitative easing, and Trump basically said that the CEOs can no longer sell shares, and he has completely drained their toolbox of tools to use. They have no more time. All they can do is print money. They can't raise interest rates. They can't stop hyperinflation. And the 31,000 stock market it's artificial. And I'm not here to alarm people. I'm just saying that it's artificial. And they don't want to alarm people. They want everything to stay the same until Trump is gone. And so they are desperate. They have to have this happen. And so when Trump got 75 million votes,
if not more,
they had to go to Plan B.
Mm-hmm.
And Plan B is it. I get goosebumps, man. We've had a lot of forensics analyze the election. They've looked at the numeric possibilities of how many votes can come in at a certain amount of time. They've looked at how the voting stopped on election night. A lot of people saw the votes change with their own two eyes. There's been a lot of affidavits out there.
Let's wait, so I don't get deleted from YouTube. Let's not go into too much detail about that, because the outcome is going to be the same whether we talk about it or not.
Well, I'm saying hypothetically.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I can't believe censoring what I'm saying, but I want to be able to continue to.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is these are what the analysts were saying, right? Some of the ones that had affidavits, and what they were missing was the proof. So we can talk about the irregularities all we want, but some of the judges were correct. A lot of people were upset about that, but you can have a suspicion and you could have an opinion based on your years of experience, but at the end of the day, it's suspicion and conclusions. It's not scientific. There's no proof. You have no smoking gun. You don't have any admissions. You don't have anyone in custody. You don't have any foundation other than hearsay. That's it. And that could be argued. So you have a situation where people had no choice. People had no choice but to accept the election for the numbers that it was, because that's all you had. Right?
Well, which is weird, because depending on who you are, hearsay seems to be enough to convict somebody in court.
Well, that's for them.
That's exactly. That's for them. That's for they can say whatever they want, and they can convict.
I'm going to create a new saying tonight.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So everyone's talking about white privilege. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that if I get pulled over and if I don't follow instructions and I go running down the street, I get shot in the back too. Okay. All right. With that said, I'm going to talk about leftist privilege.
Big time. Yep.
You have more privilege in this country if you're a Democrat than anyone else in this country ever has.
Yep. We've all seen that over and over. I've experienced it personally.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go there, and I will openly have a conversation with anyone, anytime, and I don't care what you think or what your views are. I don't care if you believe in Kwanzaa or Buddhism or you're Jewish, or I talk to you about them all, and I'm not going to judge you.
Any ethnicity, any religion, anything.
Yep. So what we have is we have information from here, information from there when it comes to these irregularities, numeric irregularities. Because, I'm not saying that it was fraudulent or fake or not true or whatever. What I'm saying is there's irregularities. There's irregularities in all elections. Okay, but there were some things that took place that were very large irregularities, and I don't know how you want me to bring this out, but there is a situation that's going on in Italy right now.
Yep.
That is not about the irregularities, and it's not about the smoking gun. It's about the man holding the gun that shot the gun that potentially caused effects to potentially change the election in this country. And it's Italy did it. If you want to do your research out there, you look that up on YouTube. You can look that up on like Dogpile or any search engine other than Google.
What was the video that you sent me earlier? What was that guy's name that was talking about it? Sure. I bet I got it on my phone here.
Okay.
Sent it to me earlier. Brad Johnson, Johnsson. So if you want to look this up on YouTube, folks, as long as it's still there, Brad Johnson, Rome, satellites, servers, update. So, and it's like a 10-minute video basically. This guy.
He creates some foundation.
And I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if it's legitimate information or not. It's the information that we're hearing. So I'm not validating it or saying that it's fact. It's just, Chris and I are brainstorming right now. He sent this video to me, and we're just trying to figure some stuff out. So that's one of the things that we watched that has some information about possibly what's going on. And it's something good for you to check out and maybe research into yourself.
And it came out on the 7th, late in the afternoon. So it came after the House had voted. From my understanding, there's an affidavit involved with the hand that held the gun, admitting to his actions.
Mm-hmm.
Several alphabet organizations are alleged to be involved in this, including foreign intelligence agencies from Europe. There's several different handlers involved. There's a defense contractor in. Let me see if I can. I don't know.
I believe that's called Leonardo.
Leonardo. Yes, thank you. Leonardo is basically a defense contractor in Italy, which would be equivalent to, some skunk works organization here in the United States. Fill in the blanks there. Yeah. And so, the United States gives this particular company billions of dollars every year, and they're in the network of the industrial complex for sure. And some of the things that this particular gentleman had access to is the upper echelon of equipment to do counter terrorism activity. So when you don't want to be seen, this is the equipment that people use. And it was bounced off of the servers supposedly in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, there's been some conversations about, some activity in Germany about some servers being seized and whatnot. And there was some activity in Italy, supposedly having to do with the hack that took place with the military software group. What was the name of that?
Leonardo?
No. Sun, the big hack that happened right after the election.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
Yeah. Anyway, supposedly the biggest hack in United States history. So some arrests were made from Leonardo Defense Department from that. For the hack supposedly, and there's some that think that it may be a cover, but we're sitting at the doorstep of the biggest news story in a quarter of a century.
It may be long.
And I can only find it 3 places on the internet. And
hold on, I have to reiterate, this is just us trying to do a little bit of our own citizen investigation and trying to figure out what's going on, and we're not saying that all of this information is validated. We are just talking about what we've researched and what we think is going on. So I just have to throw that in there.